Welcome back to EK Shop. Today we're going to make a marking knife. So what's a marking knife anyway? Simply put, it is a knife used for woodworking to make your layout lines. A knife edge can leave a much more accurate line than a pen, pencil, or marker. So this is 15 and 20. So I'm gonna heat it up to 1480 degrees Fahrenheit. Then I'm gonna quench it in oil. And I happens to be using Parks 50 quenching oil. So while the heat treat oven heats up, I'm gonna get started on the handle. This is lilac wood that I cut down in my yard with my late dog Bo, actually. Me and him dug out. Our neighbor actually had a big silver maple, and it fell into our yard and crushed all of our lilac bushes. So I saved the wood because it has a very unique color, the heartwood. It's like a purplish, sort of red color from what I've seen. So I've been drying this for about 4 years now, so it's more than usable. So I'm going to want to rip this down the center and on the sides on my table saw. So first I'm going to square up this round with my little block plane. Alright, so I've got a bottom and a side. And that's all I'm going to do. That takes a while. Should be enough to rip one square edge and then the next, and so on and so forth. So I just want to make sure that the little knife blank hardened correctly. So out of the quench, 15 and 20, should be about 65 Rockwell. Maybe a touch higher, maybe a touch lower. I do have these hardness testing files. They aren't the most accurate, but that's how I'm just going to make sure it's relatively hard anyway. So this one is rated for 65 Rockwell. And it's skating pretty nicely, honestly, so we know it's at least 65 Rockwell. So we're good. Now I'll temper it. So over here at the table saw, now this is rather dangerous in all honesty, and I wouldn't recommend everybody do it. So I have a flat edge that will ride on the table, and one flat edge that'll ride along the fence. So the idea here is I'm going to trim off just enough to make a square edge on this side, and then I will flip it around and square up this edge. And then I should be able to split it perfectly down the middle. That's the idea anyway. Yeah, that was pretty sketchy. I do not recommend it. But the show must go on. Alright, so after that sketchy operation, this is what the lilac wood looks like. It should darken up quite a bit with some oil, but you can see some of the purples around the knots already. So I'm hoping some of those purples come back out But either way, I really like lilac wood. It's very unique. You don't see it too often because, there's not a lot of overgrown lilac bushes around being cut down for lumber. So this is from my own backyard, which is also cool. I dried it over about 4 years. I'm very excited to use it as a handle. But that being said, please nobody try this at home on your table saw unless you are comfortable doing so. A fingerboard would have probably made it a much safer operation. I do not have a fingerboard, but I was as safe as I possibly could be. I was ready to hit that off button, and I was standing off to the side of the saw in case it threw the log at me. It would go by me instead of right at me. So please bear in mind, I don't recommend doing what I did, but I did it so I could use this lilac wood. A bandsaw would probably be a better option. I, however, do not have one. So these pieces of lilac wood came off pretty flat off the saw, but I just want to make sure they are as flat as possible before I continue. This is just to help the epoxy grab onto the wood. Lilac wood is kind of soft, so I put these little wooden shims in there, pieces of bark from the lilac wood actually, before I put my C-clamps on there, just so I don't dent the actual handle. Alright, so I got most of the shaping done. The next thing I'm going to do is just smooth it all over, 220 grit. I did end up going back to the belt sander and thinning out the front quite a bit. I went for more of like an egg shape handle on this one. The sapwood is showing through quite a bit, but I actually kind of like it. So let's get this smoothed out and then we'll take it up the grits, see how it looks with some oil on it. I actually decided I'm going to use some boiled linseed oil on this handle today. Linseed oil takes quite a while to cure, and it does tend to amber your wood a bit more than other oils, but I'm okay with that on this one. That's beautiful. That purple does come out. So like a dummy, I went to clean up the bevels a little bit more after I finished the handle. And I messed up. And I accidentally brought it up here too, and I didn't want to. And now looking at this knife, I don't really like how any of it looks. So I think I'm going to lop off all of that. Then regrind the bevels and go for there. A much more streamlined chisel look, but that's okay because I'm just not happy with how this came out in the first place. So I'm just gonna lop all that off. And go from there. If I have to rework the handle a little, I will, but I'll spare you guys that. So since I already heat treated this, I'm using a 60 grit ceramic belt to limit heat. So the knife is done, reground, rebeveled, sharpened on my Lansky stone system off camera. That's my personal favorite sharpening system. The handle's looking nice. So let's see what a marking knife is all about. And that's the difference in accuracy you can get with a marking knife versus a pencil. That's virtually right against the framing square. So you can see with the pencil that it always leaves a little gap between the object you're tracing or marking against It's accurate for most things, but perhaps in high accuracy applications, the pencil is not the best idea. You can see the difference here. The knife's line versus the pencil line. Alright, and that about does it, folks. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Another fun little project. A little shop tool for myself. Very happy with how the lilac wood came out. And I'm probably going to use this marking knife in future videos for projects and all sorts of stuff. Thanks for making it to the end if you have. I always appreciate it. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. And I'll catch you next time. I'll see you.